Hello everyone, back tuning into the December 2017 month-ahead forecast. So we're going to have a review on November's forecast first, but we'll see how that went. We'll do the December month-ahead forecast for the final month of the year, and at the very end we'll have a sneak peek at January as well. So we'll begin it all though by having a look at what happened in November. So the GavsWeathers.com November forecast was for a average to slightly cooler than average November, and also for precipitation to come out average to slightly drier than average. We expected that we sort of alternate cooler conditions and milder conditions in the first half of the month, and then maybe going to a rather more better defined colder spell in the second half of the month, particularly focusing on the final week of November for chance of some quite cold conditions. Let's see how we did. So this is the mean temperature anomaly from the UK Met Office Climate Averages page for November 2017, set against 61 to 1990. So this is an old and cold temperature average encompassing the very cold decade of the 1960s, where there were many cold winters, the summers were very poor, and overall it's just a really cold decade in the 1960s, the coldest decade really of the 20th century. So if we set it against 61 to 1990, we see that November 2017 comes out, for the north it comes out about average. So for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England it comes out to around average. For England and Wales, comes out ever so slightly on the milder than average side, set against 61 to 1990. But if we set it against 81 to 2010, a more modern average, that does encompass the warming that we've had over the past 20, 30 years, particularly through the 1990s and in recent years as well, then we see that we actually come out average for England and Wales in November 2017, and a colder than average month for Scotland and Northern Ireland. So depending on which temperature series you take, the GavsWeathers.com November 2017 prediction was reasonably good for temperatures. So if we set it against 81 to 2010, it comes out reasonably good. But if we set it against 61 to 1990, not quite as good. But even then, for the north, not too far out. Overall, I'm quite pleased really with how the temperature prediction went. For precipitation, this is how rainfall anomalies stack up, set against 61 to 1990. And we see many places have had an average to slightly drier than average month. A few wetter areas focused on northern and eastern Scotland, northwest England, the west of Wales, but the bulk of the country coming out average to slightly drier than average with precipitation in November. And the same is true if we set it against 81 to 2010. So again, northern Scotland comes out a bit wetter than average, little bit wetter average northwest England and west Wales, but the bulk of the country coming out average to drier than average for precipitation. And we also got that fairly potent cold final week as well. So I think overall we can say that the GavsWeathers.com November 2017 forecast was quite a successful one, and it doesn't happen all that often, actually, when we're doing these 30-day and seasonal forecasts. So when we get one right, it's always quite nice to know that that's happened. So I think reasonably successful for the November 2017 forecast. Of course, may not be the case for December. So let's go on and see what December might have in store. This is the 700 millibar height anomaly for December 2017 from the CFS V2. This has changed a lot in the past week to 10 days. About 10 days ago, this was showing a very zonal and westerly dominated December. Now we see something really quite different indeed. So it's going for above average heights through the northern Atlantic and extending back into Greenland. That's high pressure up there, and then we have this area of below average heights, low pressure across Scandinavia and Central Europe. And so between the two, you would expect that we are pulling in winds certainly from a northwesterly direction, possibly even from a northerly, maybe even at times from a northeasterly direction as well. But this does look like it should be quite a cold month really. But the high pressure that it was focusing around the Azores and also around Spain and Portugal, that has more or less been removed now from this chart. So that does look like it should be setting up quite a coldish looking pattern for December. The temperature anomaly has been toned down dramatically as well. About 10 days ago, this was showing vibrant orange and red colours across the whole of Europe. Now those orange and red colours, warmer than average temperature anomalies, are being shoved off into the very far east and southeast of Europe, with many places coming out around average. It isn't yet seeing much in the way of colder than average, but we know this model tends to overcook the temperatures anyway. With that height anomaly, I think we are at risk of getting a colder than average month to close out the year. For precipitation anomalies, it's coming out pretty much on the wetter than average side, really, especially for central parts of Europe. And I think this is all indicative of the jet stream being on a bit of a southerly track. So we know we've got this trough here across sort of Denmark, sort of northern Germany, that kind of area. We know we've got this ridge out here. And it's doing something a bit like that with the flow. There's a trough in the 500 millibar flow. So particularly for Central Europe, you're looking at quite a wintry month, I would have thought, on the cold side of the jet and under that trough. For us, we're closer to the ridge and the block. We are blocking off the Atlantic a bit, so I wouldn't expect it to be overly wet. And in fact, we might even come out on the drier than average side. If you're colder than average, because cold air tends to hold less moisture than warm air, so if you're on the colder side, often it is a little bit drier. But what precipitation there is may have the risk, an increased risk, of wintriness. So although rainfall overall might be a bit lower than average, precipitation overall might be a bit lower than average, you might have a greater than average snowfalls this December. That's how the CFS-V2 is looking. What about the Beijing Climate Centre? So these are the 500 millibar heights broken down to 10-day periods. The first 10-day period going from the 26th of November to the 5th of December. Above average heights are out to our west. And of course, we're halfway through this now. Actually, we're almost full of the way through this period now. Annoyingly, Beijing Climate Centre hasn't updated yet for December, so we're sort of a few days behind. Really, I was a bit uncertain about whether I would actually include this height anomaly in this video, but we find that for the period that we're almost at the end of now, we're doing something like that with flowing with jet stream. So it has the heights out to the west, to the northwest, and it has us in that sort of northwesterly type flow. This perhaps is a more relevant period for where we are right now. This is going from the 6th through to the 15th of December, with the above average heights again centering out to our west. You would expect the jet stream and the flow to be on a northwest-southeast trajectory, hints of a trough over Scandinavia. So again, it implies northwesterly flow is probable there as we're going through that 10-day period up to the middle of December. Then the next one appears to revert westerly. So this is week 3 in December, the 16th to the 25th. We've got above average heights to our south and southwest, below average heights up to the north. And the jet stream's coming through the country like that, more or less to the north country. So we are on the mild side of the jet there. As we're running up towards Christmas, that implies we probably have some milder conditions, probably unsettled as well, especially so up to the north. And then we go through to the last 10-day period, which is the 26th of December, Boxing Day, through to the 4th of January. And with this one, the heights are pulling back into the central Atlantic again, but below average heights are pushing down from the northwest. So it looks like that's taking us back onto the cold side of the jet stream again, with a bit of a trough in the 500 millibar flow. So that could bring some colder weather through during the Christmas week, actually. So we're starting on the 26th of December, and that takes us over sort of the rest of the Christmas period into the New Year period. And that one could bring down some wintry potential again from those northwesterly flows. There's no sign here that we're going to have sustained cold weather such as we had in December 2010. Looks like it's a bit on and off, so we will get periods of milder weather and wetter conditions as well, and then reverting back into those northwesterly sort of cold snaps. Overall, the Beijing Climate Centre is going for a milder than average month, however, which is perhaps a little bit surprising that it's doing that. But again, bear in mind, this hasn't updated for December yet, so we are running a little bit behind with that 30-day temperature anomaly. And these long-range models tend to overcook temperatures a little bit as well. I would be surprised, based on those heights, if we came out with a milder than average month. We could, I suppose, come out average, but I suspect a slightly colder than average month would be more probable. And then we've also going to see the precipitation anomaly, and that shows that for the north it comes out a bit wetter than average. For the south it comes out a little bit drier than average. Overall, not a great deviation. So for December, I think we're going to have to go for a slightly colder than average month. I think we get these fairly regular cold snaps coming through from the north and the northwest at times, and as each one of these northerly northwesterly cold snaps comes through, so the air will get that bit colder. So I think overall we come out with a slightly colder than average month, maybe by around half a degree to 1 degree below average, which is a big change on most of the Decembers we've had since 2010, because most of them have been very mild, especially the last two, 2015 and 2016, have had some very mild Decembers indeed. This one does look different. I don't think we'll get blowtorch warmth being pushed up from the tropical Atlantic. I think we'll get fairly regular intervals of cold northerly wind, with moderation in between those colder periods as it turns milder for a few days from the Atlantic, but always repeatedly going back into those northwesterly winds. But precipitation, that excuse me, is quite hard, because I think overall it's an unsettled pattern. So overall there will be fairly regular precipitation coming through, but because it's going to be quite a coldish month, I suspect actually a lot of that precipitation will be light. Some of it will probably fall as snow as well. So I think overall probably a little bit drier than average, if anything, would be the prediction. So a little bit colder than average, a little bit drier than average for December, and all in all quite a wintry feel. As far as Christmas is concerned, that's always very hard to pin down, but I reckon we've got enough there to suggest we have perhaps got a greater than normal chance anyway of seeing something a bit colder, if not on Christmas Day, then certainly around the Christmas period, and we can't be any more detailed than that. By the way, there will be a 16th Christmas update coming up for you tonight. So a little bit cold than average, a little bit drier than average for December 2017, rounding the year off on quite a seasonably chilly note. I think there will be some snow at times as well. And then finally, just having a look at that sneak peek for January. This is what the CFS V2 700 millibar height anomaly is showing for January. Looks a very unsettled month. That's a really deep trough that's being placed very close to the UK. Again, this is in the period now that we're starting to see changes with this, however. So it's beginning to raise heights to the north, you'll notice, with that yellow area just there. And this yellow area down here to the south, which of course is the Azores High, and that pushes in to the Mediterranean, that is being weakened off. So very similar to what's happened in December, CFS V2 is starting to shift for January, and what I suspect may happen over the next couple of weeks is that this trough may finish up being centred somewhere there. We may lose these yellow colours just here, and we may strengthen the yellow and orange colours up there, possibly. Again, forecasting by the time we get through to the middle of December anyway, I expect CFS V2 may be forecasting blocking around Greenland, and the possibility of more colder conditions into January as well. But that's a very long way off, and we'll worry about that when we get to it. Coming back to December, so GalaxyWeather.com, December 2017 forecast, a final forecast of the year for the month ahead, is for a slightly colder and slightly drier than average December. Regular northerly intervals coming through. There will be periods of moderation. It's not going to be a December to remember. It's not going to be a December 2010 with just continuous severe cold from more or less beginning to end and copious amounts of snow. There won't be that kind of weather. We will get periods of a moderation of milder westerly winds in between these cold snaps, but all in all quite a seasonable month to end the year. Right, that's all for now. Come back later on when we will have a look at when next week to 10 days. I'll be on the homepage this afternoon, and we'll be covering sort of next week's 10 days and the chance of quite a potent cold snap coming up at the end of this week, actually, and into the weekend. There will be risk of some snow in with that. And then tonight we've got the 16th Christmas update. That'll be around 7 o'clock. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.